And hello, everyone. Good afternoon or good evening, depending on where you are. My name is Franklin. I'm one of the two co-founders of the Northern California Spinal Cord Injury Foundation, also better known as NorCal SCI. Welcome to tonight's presentation on cooking and nutrition with Arash and Shelley, breakfast of champions, ideas for those with spinal cord injuries. Happy to have the two of them collaborate once again tonight, and they have some wonderful ideas on how to get that difficult meal of the day, that breakfast, kind of become a little bit more regular part of your lives and a more nutritional part of your lives. So they have some great ideas that they're going to be sharing with you. But before we get started, let me share a few things with you. As always, these presentations are made possible thanks to a grant that we had received from the Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation. And actually, this presentation tonight marks the last presentation that we're going to be presenting under that grant. Starting next month, NorCal SCI is going to be self-funding all of our future presentations, including many more from Arash and Shelley, along with some of our other partners that do these virtual presentations. But nevertheless, thanks for the Reeve Foundation for their support since last June when we first began doing these presentations. Okay, everyone has been muted in order to eliminate any background distractions. In case if you do have questions, please feed them to me through your chat feature on your screen. Throughout the presentation, we will be able to pepper Arash and Shelley with questions as they are doing their presentation. So feel free to fire away with those questions, and I'll pose your questions to them all throughout. And then finally, as always, we are recording this presentation. So if any of you need to jump off the call at any time during the presentation, you will have a recording of it in your email inbox first thing tomorrow morning. And that way you can view it and also share it hopefully with others that you know that may have not had the opportunity of signing up to watch this presentation. Okay, so without further ado, let me go ahead and jump in and introduce Shelley and Arash. So Shelley is a lifelong advocate of nutrition. When she isn't working with patients, she can be found in her greenhouse or kitchen. She obtained her Bachelor of Science degree in Nutritional Science from San Jose State University in 2012, followed by her Master's in Public Health in 2016 from the University of New England, and has been working at the Santa Clara Valley Medical Center, one of the top spinal cord injury rehabilitation hospitals in the country since 2013. She is currently working in the outpatient clinic of the hospital, seeing primarily those with spinal cord injuries, and also spends time working with complex GI issues in the outpatient gastroenterology clinic at the hospital. And I'm also thrilled that she's a member of NorCal SCI's advisory board. As for Arash, he experienced his C5, C6 incomplete spinal cord injury in 2012 as a result of a fall. He has given numerous talks and shared his story of perseverance, recovery, and challenging limits to audiences large and small, including a TEDx talk. He's a Bay Area native and credits his California upbringing for his love of the outdoors, culture, nature, cooking, activities that he still cherishes as he continues to travel, explore, and enjoy new experiences. He's married with a daughter and a newborn son. And again, I'm thrilled that he also serves on NorCal SCI's board of directors. So turn things over to Arash and Shelley. Arash, you there? Oh, let me unmute you again.
There we go.
Okay, thank you.
There I am. Okay. Shelley, are you there?
And she's coming right up.
All right.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I think we're good. We're good. Franklin allowed me to speak now, so.
Me too.
Go for it.
All right. So we've got something special lined up today.
Yeah. We're going to talk about breakfast, most important meal of the day, according to many, right, Shelley?
That's
do
correct.
you want to start and just talk about the importance of breakfast in terms of
Yeah.
what you Yeah, and then we can jump into the cooking in a moment.
Yeah, so breakfast will set you up for a good day. There's current research that says if you skip breakfast, your chances of overeating later in the day and overindulging in certain things is much, much greater. And so those that set themselves up right in the morning with a nice healthy breakfast, like the ones that we're going to talk about, really do end up eating much healthier and actually consuming less calories in the day. So that is a good thing. I do want to mention something specific to spinal cord injury. If you have a morning bowel treatment program, then having breakfast is really important. I can't stress enough how important it is to eat an hour or 2 hours before your bowel program, because you need something to be there to stimulate your bowel movement and have good results. So if you're a morning BTP-er, you probably want to get up extra early and have a healthy breakfast that's kind of like the ones that we're talking about. Give your system a little bit of something to work with for when you do actually have your bowel program. So that's very important. And the last bit, if you are struggling with diabetes at all, it is imperative that you eat a solid breakfast in the morning and one that has a good amount of healthy carbohydrates. Spreading carbs through the day is really crucial to maintaining really good glycemic control. And so skipping breakfast, which a lot of people do, is really actually very bad for people that have diabetes. So I want to add that in there too. And I mean, it's my favorite meal, actually. So I'm super happy to be talking about all these foods. What do I have we should talk about what we have for breakfast. Well, I'll tell you what I have. So this morning I had a giant bowl of berries and a slice of whole wheat toast and some cashew butter over the top that I got on sale. And of course my coffee, because I always have coffee. But I was good to go for hours, and my energy levels are much better if I have a good breakfast. So, and I do tend to eat seasonally. We talk about that a lot. We're going into stone fruit season, which if you've heard me talking about it before, you know it's my favorite season of the year is stone fruits. And I'm looking forward to peaches and nectarines and all of those. So so that is why you should have breakfast for, I'll come up with more reasons, but that's the main reason why.
Cool. All right. So should we just lay out kind of what we're gonna do and go from there?
Yeah.
So yeah, we wanted to really emphasize, as always, but especially with breakfast, easy to prep, easy to make. So really our emphasis today is going to be about, things that you can almost prep ahead or make ahead and basically have very little to do on the morning of, because especially for those of us with a spinal cord injury, if you are following Shelley's advice and you're going to do your breakfast before bowel program, or even if you're not, no one wants to get up and spend half an hour in the kitchen throwing things together. So really big emphasis on do ahead. So we have 4 different things we're going to make today. 3 of them are things you can basically make ahead and just the morning of take out of the fridge and you're pretty much ready to go. The only thing that we're going to cook is the first thing we're going to make. And these things are actually great because you can make them and then refrigerate them and then just eat them for the next few days. So we are going to start by making, Shelley laughed at me because I didn't have a good term for them. I was calling them omelet muffin tin things.
Yeah,
but
keep it. I like it.
Yeah, but my wife had a better one. She called them frittata cups, which I thought was
that's cute. I like that better.
So we're gonna use this is the thing we're gonna make right now. First and foremost, this is a muffin tin. If you don't have one, I didn't, but I think it was like $3 or something at Target. Really, really easy to use. It has 12 slots. I'm going to make 8 because 12 is a lot to have. So, but it's a really good thing to do ahead of time. We're basically going to make like an omelet type deal into the muffin tin, bake them in the oven, and then they'll be ready before our session's over. And then we'll be, you can have those while you throw them in a container and have them in your fridge, and then you can eat 1 or 2 of them for breakfast. And if you're feeding a family, if you're feeding more than one person, they're really, really great. Super, super easy. I'm going to make 2 different kinds because you know me, I always have to try to be a little ambitious. So Should we dive right into it, Shelley?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, let me flip the camera around and have my lovely camera person take over. Okay, so we're gonna make 2 different kinds with these muffin, omelet muffin things. The important thing, there's a couple of things to note. You can pretty much put anything you want in them. I'm gonna do 2 really simple versions. But the important thing I wanna pass on is that when you're using whatever you're gonna make in them, the only thing you have to be conscious of is something that needs to be cooked ahead of time or not. Most things don't. And we're coming into summer, we're coming into tomato season. I wish they were already in season, I would have used them. But for most things like herbs or tomatoes or like spinach that we're gonna use today, you don't need to cook those things ahead of time. But for something like, broccoli, which we are gonna use, you do wanna cook ahead of time. So the only thing I did before we started is I just steamed up some broccoli. And just super simple. You can use frozen broccoli if you want right out of the bag, just boil it or steam it until it's cooked. And then we're gonna make one version with broccoli and bell pepper and, broccoli, red onion, and goat cheese. And then we're gonna do another one with spinach, parsley, and Parmesan cheese. So yes, we are throwing a little cheese in there. For a little extra flavor. But Shelley, I really liked what your kind of description of how you use cheese. Can you talk about that for a moment? All I'm gonna do right now is I'm just gonna cut up my broccoli into slightly smaller pieces because they need to go in those muffin tins. So I'm just gonna cut those up real quick while you do that.
Yeah, so I've talked a lot about fat and saturated fat in the diet and the high risk that those with spinal cord injuries have for cardiovascular disease. And it's been researched in depth that saturated fat definitely can lead to way increased risk for cardiovascular disease. And the saturated fat that they look at is found in animal products, specifically meat and the fat on meat and cheese and dairy and that kind of thing, ice cream. So cheese can be, it can be kind of dangerous and increase your risk for heart disease. But with that being said, if you need a little bit of a flavor, like a Parmesan cheese or something with a nice good cheese flavor like feta or like a sharp cheddar, use it as an accent flavor over your cooking, but not to have like a thick cheese pizza or something like that. But if you make your own pizza or make something like Arash is making now, having a little bit over the top of it just to get a little flavor from it is perfectly fine. It's eating blocks of cheese that's going to cause the problem for you. I actually like cheese. I like to throw a little feta cheese. I tend to lean towards a plant-based diet, but I do enjoy adding feta cheese occasionally to my salads and soups and things. And I do like a little bit of Parmesan cheese once in a while. So my dad grew up on a dairy. It's in my blood, literally. So little cheese is okay. Yeah. So want me to keep going? You have other things to talk about?
Yeah, let me just mention one thing and then pass it right back to you. But I've talked about chopping before on these sessions, but I figured it'd be a good opportunity to mention again. I'm going to chop up a little bit of red bell pepper and red onion. So I just want to show people the way I do it because I've done this before, but I think it's really helpful. I've seen people cut bell peppers in really, really weird ways. So because I'm making these little omelet things, I want the dice to be pretty small. So what I usually do, I cut the bottom off and I use that too. But for now, I just want to show you. Now you can kind of stand it up. And all I do is cut a side straight down. And if you do it right, you don't get much of this white part. If you want to be really fancy like me, you can cut that out, but you don't have to. And then you've got this nice piece here. Then I just cut it into strips. And then I'm just going to dice them across the strips and get a really small dice. So that's what I'm going to do for the bell pepper. We don't need much for this. This should probably be plenty. And then the other thing, which I've talked about before again, but I'll mention, because it always helps, is onion. I'm going to do a little bit of red onion. I only need a little bit of this. So the way to get a very fine dice of onion, which I've also talked about, is you've got your onion half and you want to lay it down. Whoops, this piece is giving me a hard time. And then basically I cut lines into the onion almost all the way to the end. And the more lines you make, the finer the dice. So if you want big chunks, you would just do like 1, 2, 3, and then cut it up, and that's it. So I want kind of a smaller dice. So I'm going to go a couple times across, and then if you want, you can go this way as well. You don't have to, but I'm just going to do that. And so I've got these nice little lines here, and then I just go across here, and I've got a beautiful little dice. So that's how I dice the red onion. So I'm going to just clean this up, pass it back to you, and go back to the prep.
Okay, so your kitchen prep has changed my kitchen life. Honestly, I had never cut my bell peppers that way before, but the last time you went over, just cutting the end off and then cutting just the edges of the bell pepper, I have never had any issue with seeds at all since then. So take notes, everyone. The onion thing, I've been doing that for a while, but the bell pepper thing changed my life, and we're going into bell pepper season, so I'm super excited about that. I do want to mention one thing about eggs, since we're doing these little egg muffin thingies. Wait, what are they? Frittata cups?
Frittata cups. Okay,
frittata cups. Eggs. So I've talked about it before. I will talk about it again. They are not the devil for sure. It's your entire diet quality that matters, not that poor egg and the cholesterol that's in the egg. It has to do more with your entire diet. So if you eat eggs on occasion like this, that is fine. But if you eat eggs all the time and you also eat Doritos and Taco Bell, McDonald's and In-N-Out and like all the snacky foods, and then you're probably going to have an issue with high cholesterol. It's not actually the cholesterol in the food that's the issue. It's diets that are high in processed food or processed like in boxes, packages, fast food, that kind of thing. Salty and sugary foods, that's when you end up having cholesterol issues, plus the genetic component always in the background. So enjoy your eggs. If you have a nice, healthy, plant-based diet, then some eggs like this are fantastic. And they're also a really good source of protein too. So every egg has about 7 grams of protein.
Oh, forgot about my spinach. I'm just going to chop those up real quick, but I'll just kind of briefly mention a couple of things that I've got ready here. With these like muffin things, these frittata cups, you don't need much of anything. So I'm gonna keep it here. I've got my little platter here. I'm gonna move over here and start getting them ready. So we've got our muffin tin. And we've got our eggs. I've got 8 eggs because I'm doing about 8 of these things. And it's about 1 egg per thing. If I have more or less, that's fine. I can always just make them work. What I do want to do is add the seasoning to the eggs. So I'm going to add just a little bit of salt and pepper right into the eggs before I beat them up and get them ready. So I've got my eggs here. Like I said, 8 eggs. Just beat them up, season with salt and pepper. If you want to add something else in, that's fine. Any kind of seasoning, but I'm keeping it really simple. And then the trick, not a trick, but a thing that'll really help you in this is to pour. This is going to be kind of hard to pour, especially if you have bad hands like me. So I'm going to dump this into a measuring cup, and it'll be really, really easy then to pour that from the measuring cup into the tin. Very important note, if you pour your eggs into this tin, even though it's non-stick, you might end up with a mess. So I'm using just some extra virgin olive oil spray. And I'm gonna spray, so let's see, I'll do maybe 4 on one side and 4 on the other. So I'm just gonna give it a little splatter of olive oil, it's okay. Just so that the stuff doesn't stick. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now I've got my filling here. I've got my bell pepper, red onion, broccoli, parsley, Parmesan, goat cheese, and spinach. And there's different ways you can do it. You could fill it with eggs and the filling. I like to kind of do the filling first. So I'm going to put just a little bit of broccoli. So if I'm doing, and then what did I say? I'm going to do red onion, a little bit of red onion in each one. And this is just super, super simple, guys. This is a good, if you're doing if you have a busy work week, this is something you can do on a Sunday and have these ready to go. And it's just the easiest breakfast. So I've got a little bit of goat cheese. I'm gonna put those on top. I'm gonna wait on that. So, okay, I've got one there. My other one is spinach. So I'm just doing a little bit of spinach in each little cup. Okay. And then I've got my bell pepper. I like the bell pepper, especially for color. It's kind of nice to have that kind of red and green and then the yellow of the egg. It's nice. And who knows, I might have more egg than I need. I might make a couple more of these. So, and then I've got my parsley. Honestly, I don't even remember which one I said I was going to do the parsley in. I'll just do it in both. I don't really care. I love parsley. Wonderful thing. Wonderful.
Is that from your garden?
This one's not. My parsley is done for the year. It's too hot for me, so it's not from the garden, unfortunately. I'm switching to basil and summer veggies. So,
nice.
So, and then I'm just gonna fill these up. You want to fill them up almost to the top, but not all the way, because they do kind of puff up a little. They puff up, and then when you take them out and they cool down, they also go back. So it's not a huge deal. But I'm just gonna fill this up most of the way. So really easy. And again, this like measuring cup makes it even easier. I probably overfilled a couple of those a little bit. So I'm just proving that I'm not perfect at all, but it looks like my proportions were pretty good. And then I like to add the little cheese on top for obvious reasons. Then you get a little melty. So I'm just putting a little glob of goat cheese kind of on top. So I've got goat cheese on one. And then I've got Parmesan for the other. Again, just a little bit. Little goes a long way. And that's pretty much all I need. As you can see, I've got stuff left over. I'm just going to dump a little more in because who doesn't want more veggies? So that's pretty much it, guys. My oven is preheated to 350. This is going to take about 20 minutes. So I'm going to stick these in the oven. And as I do that and transition to the next thing, Shelley, if there's anything you would like to add, please feel free.
Not a whole lot. I did pull up some information on spinach, or on broccoli, actually. Well, on both. So broccoli is amazing. I've talked about broccoli before. It's got immune boosting properties. It's one of the cruciferous vegetables. It lives in the family with Brussels sprouts and cauliflower. Has been shown to help reduce cholesterol, largely because of the fiber, which pulls cholesterol out of your body. And I'll talk more about that in a minute because oatmeal is the king. It's a really good antioxidant. One of the most powerful green veggies that you can add to your diet. Excellent for your heart. Really good for your skin and eyes. It's fantastic all around. Spinach is another wonderful nutrient-rich green vegetable, high in antioxidants, vitamins, minerals. It supports brain health. It helps manage blood pressure. They're both kind of similar in the fact that they're antioxidants and really good for your body. So I highly recommend both of them together if you can.
So we have a couple of questions that have come in. Arash, one question is, how long would these be good for in the fridge?
Good question. Easily 3 to 4 days at least, maybe even longer. But okay. Yeah, if you make them on a Sunday, you could totally eat them. I mean, I don't know, Shelley, eating eggs every day.
Probably by Thursday.
So yeah, so by like the end of the week, you're still probably good to go.
Okay. And then the second question is maybe more directed towards Shelley. How much egg can you consume without, overdoing it?
Well, I mean, it is partial saturated fat and cholesterol. If your diet is healthy, I mean, an egg or two every other day should be fine. If you have high cholesterol, you probably want to have a very high fiber diet, definitely, because fiber, like I just said, it helps pull cholesterol out of your blood. But eggs they're not the enemy. It's overall diet. So if you love eggs, or if you have chickens like I do, I've got egg producing chickens, and so I do eat their eggs every once in a while. I don't have a lot of processed food in my diet, so I'm not, my dad had high cholesterol, so I theoretically could have it myself. So I'm just very mindful about that. Have a few eggs a week if you like eggs, basically. That's what I'm saying.
And then Arash, a question to you. Can you freeze and heat these later?
You can cook them and then
Right.
freeze them. Yes, I haven't done it, but I've read through my research that you can. Yes, short
The
answer.
water content in some of the vegetables could play a role in like the crystallization, and you might get a little bit of the freezer burn, especially like tomatoes, that kind of thing, like watery vegetables. But if you were to do something simple that, that didn't have tomatoes, you might be all right.
Yeah, and this is something you can, and I totally understand the convenience, but you guys saw it's really pretty easy. I'm not a huge fan of like freezing eggy type things. I just think I think it's fine if health wise, but like it just kind of everything gets a little weird and soggy. But when you put these in the fridge after they're cooked, totally fine. You heat them up, ideally in in the microwave or a toaster or something, and they're great. But yeah.
All right. And then what was the degree of temperature for the oven?
350.
350. Thank you.
350. Yep. Cool. Should we move on to oats?
Let's do it.
All right. Next up, we're going to make two different versions of overnight oats. And I think we talked about overnight oats either in the whole grain or the protein session we did. But both Shelley and I are huge fans for a number of reasons. They're super versatile. They're tasty. You can do a million things with them. They're very inexpensive. And kind of wanted to maybe start on that note because Shelley and I both like to emphasize value and cost, because I just constantly hear from friends, oh, it's too expensive to do this or that, and I'm constantly trying to prove them wrong. So I've got a bunch of different stuff here, and I just want to show you guys kind of how I do some of this in terms of getting them. I buy bulk oats from my grocery store. This bag that's packed to the brim of 1.5 pounds of organic oats is $1.80. This will probably make like meals for, I don't know, 10 people easily. So $1.80, and it's the main ingredient in this. So that's for the oats. And then in terms of some of these other things that I've talked about before in sessions, I know Shelley's going to mention a little bit, but if you have a Costco membership, it's a great place. That's where I got these. These are goji berries. These are superfood. Shelley's going to talk about those in a moment. And then we've got chia seeds. You've heard me evangelize about chia seeds. These are incredible. This giant bag at Costco is like $7 or $8, and like something a tenth the size is like way more at like Whole Foods or Safeway or something. So if you have Costco, feel free to get that. It's a great value. And I'm putting these away because I have them in jars. And then this is another thing we're going to use is hemp seeds. Again, Costco purchase. These are all organic, by the way. So Shelley, I know we've talked about this both a little bit, but oats is something through my own research that I've read. If you can get organic, do it, because there's non-organic oats can have a lot of like chemicals and stuff. And oats are such an inexpensive thing that I think it does make sense to buy organic if you can, because the cost difference is really not that much. Like I said, $1.80 for organic oats, this big of a bag. So
I'll add something
anything
about
to
that.
add real quick? Yeah.
Yeah. So if you are in a location that has a store that has limited organic stuff, that is fine. Or if the organic options that you have are super expensive, that's fine. I would really rather you eat regular oatmeal than forego it altogether and go with something like Frosted Flakes, you know. Yes, of course, organic is more sustainable and it's healthier in some cases, but if you think of it in terms of, well, what will I eat if I don't eat this non-organic oatmeal? Just eat the oatmeal. Yeah.
All right. So I actually, for once this time, I do have a recipe. I figured this all out ahead of time. I have the recipe. I'll send the notes to Franklin for anyone who wants to know. For basic overnight oats, just proportions of things, just so everyone can know. So my general proportion is, and this is for like one serving. I usually do it double because I like to have it for a couple of days. Like this is what my daughter eats for breakfast most days. So the proportion I'm doing today is a half cup of oats, 1 tablespoon of chia seeds, like a teaspoon-ish of nut butter. I got peanut butter in one and almond butter in the other. And then about an equal proportion to the nut butter of some kind of healthy sweetener. I'm using a little bit of maple syrup or honey or jam. And that's kind of the base. And then milk for the liquid. I'm using oat milk, plant milk, because I don't do regular milk. So, and the proportion of the milk is equal to the oats. So it's pretty straightforward. Half cup of oats, half cup of milk, 1 teaspoon of nut butter, 1 teaspoon of sweetener, and then a tablespoon of chia seeds. And the chia seeds, this is the magic ingredient, guys. This stuff has like everything good for you. And Shelley can talk about that more, but in terms of cooking and what it does is it thickens liquid and it thickens things. So you can totally add more than 1 tablespoon. I personally do. But if you do, you want to add more liquid as well because it basically thickens it all. So you'll see what I'm talking about. So I'm going to measure out, I'm going to do it in these little jars. So I'm going to basically do my overnight oats. I'm going to go 2 versions. The first one is going to be, so let's start with our oats, about a half a cup. And this is, again, all approximate. I know you guys always ask me for recipes, which is why I kind of did that this time. But if you want more or less of anything, and that's the base, and I'm going to add other stuff to it to make it tastier. So I've got my half cup of oats, making a mess. And then I've got my chia seeds. So I always start with the dry stuff. So I've got a solid about tablespoon of chia seeds. And then what am I going to do for this one? The first one I'm going to do peanut butter. I'm going to do about a teaspoon of peanut butter and put that in. And then for, like I said, about an equal amount of sweetener. And in this one, I'm going to use honey. So about an equal amount of honey. And be careful, guys. This is an easy place to go crazy with sweetener. You don't want it too sweet. So, but you also don't want no sweetener because then it can taste a little bit bland. So this is the base. This is kind of like that balance of things is kind of what I like to do in general. And then beyond that is what you add to make it more flavorful. So this one with peanut butter, I'm going to add some cacao nibs. These are awesome. This is like chocolate in its purest form. It's 100% cocoa, so has no sweetness at all. And it has, Shelley can probably mention in a moment, some of the health benefits. So these are cacao. They're bitter because it's 100% cocoa, no sugar. It is quite bitter, but they have a nice crunch. So I'm going to add some of these in there, probably about a tablespoon of these. And then I'm going to add a little bit of grated coconut. All right, or shredded coconut, this one is. So same thing, about a tablespoon of that. And then I'm going to add my plant milk. And as I said, about equal parts. This is something you do want to kind of keep an eye on. What I do is I do the plant milk. I put everything in, I mix it up, and then I see what it's looking like. I want to let it sit for a few minutes. So I'm going to do this in here. I'm going to stir this up really well for a couple moments and give Shelley a chance to talk through some of this stuff.
I'll talk about oatmeal first. Oatmeal is probably one of my favorite foods, actually. If I could eat oatmeal every day, I would eat it, and sometimes I do. So it is the edible seeds of oat grass, quite literally. Cooked oatmeal has a high water and soluble fiber content. Oatmeal has actually both soluble and insoluble fiber, but it leans more toward the soluble side. Soluble, I've talked about soluble fiber before, but soluble fiber is excellent for those who have lower neurogenic bowel because this kind of fiber attracts water. It turns to a gel, which slows down transit time of stool. So if you have lower neurogenic bowel, oatmeal is fantastic for that. It's also great for blood sugar management for those who struggle with that because glucose is released and absorbed more slowly. It also, like I said earlier, it binds to extra cholesterol, which prevents its absorption. So that's why Quaker Oats is so heavy on talking about how it helps reduce risk for heart disease and helps lower cholesterol, because soluble fiber is so good at doing that, at pulling cholesterol out of your body and getting rid of it. So it's got both properties of soluble and insoluble, but it leans more towards soluble. It's got a ton of phosphorus, thiamine, magnesium, and zinc. There's different kinds of oats, but the less processed, the more nutritious. And I think you're using rolled oats, right, Arash?
Rolled oats, yeah, good question. If anyone's wondering, there's steel cut and rolled. Steel cut, you kind of have to cook. They look more like little grains. This is rolled oats. This is like, you can get this, and as Shelley said, especially if you're just going for standard non-organic, you can get good old Quaker rolled oats. Easy to find. You can buy it everywhere, literally everywhere.
All right,
Yeah, so rolled oats are preferred. Steel cut's great. I've tried steel cut as an overnight, like several night overnight, and it's chewy and it doesn't work. And then you can also do, if you're cooking, you can do oat groats, which are like whole oat kernels, oat bran, steel cut, or Irish oats, Scottish oats. Just don't buy any kind of sweetened or flavored oatmeal ever. And you know what? Less processed. So the instant oats actually really do not work for overnight oats. It will just turn into mush. So you want to have a little bit of a consistency. So the rolled oats are absolutely the best for overnight.
Can oats be constipating, is one of the questions?
That's the opposite. Oats are fantastic for constipation. They're great. And he's adding chia seeds, which makes it even better, right? So this is your constipation remedy right here. With water, tons of water in your diet. You can.
Right. And a question was, I think you've already addressed, if you can use steel oats.
Rolled.
No, not unless you like to gum your oats. I mean, they're pretty chewy. And they get stuck in your teeth. You could cook those when it's really cold out. Nothing's better than some like cooked steel cut oats on the stove.
And they take like 5 to 7 minutes to cook. So that is something, if you have a few minutes in the morning, if you're drinking your coffee, whatever, make your steel cut oats then. Or you can, make them ahead of time and then just add flavoring things to them. So, but for overnight oats, stick to the roll.
And Shelley, can you describe what is the meaning of lower neurogenic bowel?
So at a certain level of injury, you will have lower neurogenic bowel where you would tend to have more incontinence than upper neurogenic. I know that is something that comes along with the diagnosis of a spinal cord injury and something that the physiatrist will tell you if you're upper or lower motor neuron. But I do know that lower motor neuron bowel injury, bowels are a little toward the looser side. And oftentimes my patients with lower, they struggle with incontinence and diarrhea a lot of the time. So soluble is where you want to go for lower. Upper, you could do both, soluble and insoluble, but lower for sure, lean more towards soluble.
Very good. So Arash, while we were talking, you were doing a number of things, adding ingredients. Yeah. So one of the questions was, what is he adding right now?
What are you doing?
Yeah. What am I doing?
What have you been doing the last minute or two?
I appreciate you. I love the attentiveness, but oops, I'm making a mess is what I'm doing. That's honestly what's happening. What I did was I just took everything I mentioned in that last batch and I mixed it up really, really well. Now I have to clean this up. Yeah, you really want to stir the overnight oats really, really well. And because you want the nut butter, you won't want like a big chunk of peanut butter, almond butter in the mouth. So all I did was I stirred everything up. I added my plant milk, and this is what it looks like. So what I knew it kind of doing it as well, but it's a little bit dry. And this is what I meant by the chia seeds. Chia seeds absorb liquid and they kind of make it thick, and they make things like custardy. There's a lot of really cool plant-based desserts people are making now. Chia seed pudding, chia seed tiramisu, chia seed custard, blah, blah, blah. But for me, this is a little bit thick because as it sits overnight, it's going to absorb more. So I was just letting it sit for a few minutes. And that's what I like to do. I like to stir it really well, add my liquid, and I usually let it sit a few minutes and kind of check it out. And then if I feel like it needs a little more, then I like to give it a little bit more. So I'm giving it another stir. Aside from that, I didn't do anything else, but this was the first batch that I made. And I'm just going to do the same thing again. I'm going to let it sit a few minutes, and then I started my next batch. So I just did the same exact thing. Half cup of oats, tablespoon of chia seeds. I did about a teaspoon of almond butter this time. And my sweetener for this one, equal part to the almond butter, was about a teaspoon of maple syrup. Sometimes I use jam. It's a really good way to just use if you have some like random jam in your fridge that you're like, what do I do with this? I don't want apricot jam. Throw it in this. It's an easy way to give it that little bit of sweetener. So those are my 4 main ingredients. And then for this one, I'm gonna put some goji berries in. This is like superfood central, guys. This is like a crazy nutritious food, kind of like chia seeds. If you can get your hands on these, get them, because it's like one of the most nutritious things out there. So they're dry. They're like a dry little berry. So if you eat them dry, they're kind of like sticky in your teeth and whatnot. But when you add them into this and they absorb liquid, they plump up and they become super tasty too. So I'm going to add a handful of chia seeds. The last one, as you saw, was kind of coconut and cacao and kind of more like those flavors, and peanut butter. This one I'm going a little bit more with like fruit flavor. So I added about a tablespoon and a half of chia seeds. And I'm going to add, what was the other thing I wanted? Oh, I'm going to add some hemp seeds for this one. Just a sprinkle. These don't have a lot of flavor. So I add a little bit, about a teaspoon or so of hemp seeds. And then same thing. I'm going to add my plant milk. Now that I know I'm making a mess, I'm going to do this over the sink. Okay. Add my plant milk. And remember, guys, this is just the starting point. Once these are made and they're sitting in your fridge overnight and you take them out in the morning, that's when you can add bananas, fresh berries, fresh fruit, anything else you want to add. The sky's the limit. So I'm going to give this a stir and pass it back to Shelley. And yeah.
Okay. So
one quick question. Shelley, what are the benefits of coconut?
Coconut?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so coconut is, well, number one, it's tasty. It is one of the only plants that has saturated fat. It's a plant-based saturated fat. I was talking about that earlier. Diets high in saturated fat, again, can be harmful, but a little bit of coconut is okay. Other than that, I mean, there are great antioxidants in there as well, and minerals, but I usually basically just use it as a complement or just an added flavor enhancer for my food. That's about it. Coconut milk is really high in saturated fat and high in fat, but it is nice to put into certain curries and things. We've talked about coconut milk before, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that answered that question.
I think so.
Okay. Goji berries. So I did a little research. I haven't used too many goji berries, and I think I'm learning from this presentation that I'm going to start using a little more, but I did some research on them. They're called wolfberries also. They're dried. They were used in traditional Chinese medicine for more than 2,000 years. They can be eaten raw, a little chewy there. High level of antioxidants, which protect the body against free radicals. And this is the interesting fact, is they have about as much vitamin C as fresh lemons and oranges. So very high in vitamin C. Relatively high in fiber, and rich in all kinds of minerals like copper, iron, selenium, and zinc. So pretty healthy. And again, you know, you're not going to eat cups and cups of them, but they're fantastic to add to things like oatmeal and smoothies and things like that. And even in your salads, I've had them in salads too. They're good.
All right, so the question is goji the same as amla?
As what?
Amla, A-M-L-A.
That's a good question. You stumped us.
So what I'm reading is it's an Indian gooseberry.
Gooseberries, I think they're different.
I think that's different because from what I know, like Shelley said, gojis originated in China. And I think like even now, I believe these are actually from China. Yeah, this is from China. So these are, yeah, it might be something different. Looks like that. Goji berries, G-O-J-I. I'm gonna peek at the frittata
Okay.
cups real quick.
So I will chat real quick about chia seeds. So chia seeds are pretty interesting. They're a very high quality protein. They've got a lot of fiber, but what's great about chia seeds is they also have omega-3 fatty acids. They are very beneficial for the cardiovascular system. And you've probably heard of omega-3 fatty acids in the form of fatty fish like salmon and supplements, things like that. But this is the plant-based form of omega-3 fatty acid. You can also find those in flaxseed and walnuts and hemp. So these are all omega-3 rich foods that you can add to your diet that are plant-based. Chia seeds are really good for their fiber, protein, calcium, magnesium, phosphorus, but I know that a lot of my patients with spinal cord injuries like chia seeds in their diet because it seems to help with constipation and helps with regularity. And you know, another fact, Aztecs used chia seeds as their main energy source for many, many years. So they have a rich history. They will absorb at least 10 times their own weight in water. So he was talking about the desserts, tiramisu and puddings. You can make chia seed pudding. I've made it before. It's so good. And it's really interesting. People even use chia seeds for beauty products and things like that for the gel forming properties.
Okay, I'm going to jump in here real quick because we want to wrap up a couple things and move on to our last item. But so this was the first overnight oats we made. This one's looking pretty good. I can show you kind of the consistency I'm looking for. And of course, if you like it thicker or thinner, do whatever you want. But remember, guys, this is not the end of this. This is just going in the fridge overnight. So in the morning, sometimes I'll take it out and it will seem too dry. And then I can add a little more milk or something. If you want to add, if you are eating yogurt, this is also a good place you can put some yogurt in. You can put it in the morning as well. But I'm just, again, trying to give you guys the basics. So that was the first one. This is the second one. And usually I just make these into like a little glass bowl with Tupperware with a lid on it. But I wanted them to kind of look all fancy and nice for you guys because that's kind of how everybody serves these. And you see them. So this is the one with the goji. And yeah, it's so easy. I prefer adding the fruit on the morning when I'm going to eat them, just because I feel like when you add it before, it can get a little soggy or something. But I've got a couple fresh blueberries here to make it really pretty. You can just kind of throw these on top. And they do kind of sit on top, so they hopefully won't get too soggy. So you kind of see that looks really, really nice. I mean, who doesn't want to eat that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Super, super tasty. And yeah, let your imagination run wild. I'm gonna put the lids on these, stick them in the fridge, and overnight. They're called overnight oats, but really they're even ready within like a couple hours. Any less than that, then your oats are a little raw. So at least give it a couple hours. But if you can do it overnight, like I said, this is something you saw how easy it was. I whipped this up in like 2 minutes at the end of the night after I'm done cooking. I'm like, oh, I need to make breakfast for my daughter. Throw it together, put it in the fridge, and then first thing in the morning, you just take it out of the fridge and take your spoon out and dive in. You'd want to add more stuff to it, sliced almonds or more fruit. Bananas are always really good. If you taste it and it needs a little something, then feel free to do that. But that's that's it, guys. This is pretty much done. These are ready to go in the fridge. I want to show you our frittata cups because they came out of the oven. And a couple of them are prettier than others, but check this out. You got the gooey, melty goat cheese on top. Over here, you got the Parmesan on this side. And, you know, they're super easy. They just pop right out. And like I said, they puff up a lot and then they kind of depuff. So easy. You can cut that in half and put it on a piece of bread. You could eat that on its own, you know, whatever you want. I'm just going to put these into a Tupperware and put them in the fridge, and then they're ready to go for a few days of breakfast. So that's done. And then our final item is just doing a little prep for a smoothie. But I've been talking a lot. I want to make sure Shelley has a chance to comment on anything I've just talked about.
I'm going to make it super fast in the interest of time, but you can actually warm up your overnight oats if you don't want them cold. You can warm them up in the morning. You can do seasonal, do something fruity in the summertime, and you can go all the way pumpkin and cinnamon and that kind of thing, and walnuts in the fall. So you just use your imagination with them.
So yeah,
That's
you
all.
anticipated a question that was, do you eat the oatmeal cold or heat it in microwave?
Yeah, you can warm it up if cold oatmeal doesn't appeal to you. I love overnight oats cold in the summertime. And then I'll do some fancy overnight oats in the winter time, and I'll warm them up, just take the chill off a little bit in the winter, or I'll just cook on the stove. So.
All right. Shall
Let's
we
go
move on to
smoothie.
our last item? This
Let's
is
do
quick.
it.
So this is, it's going to seem a little boring, but I'm going to show you a couple tricks to make it less boring. Smoothie. Obviously, lots of amazing benefits to eating smoothies because you can put whatever you want in there. I know I've talked about it a lot. Shelley's probably talked about it in her sessions as well. But I guess a couple of things I want to share with you guys about making a smoothie is, number one, I prep my smoothie the night before. So just like how I did with the overnight oats, I like to make it the night before for two reasons. One, in the morning, it's just ready to go. I don't blend it the night before, and I don't add liquid. Then in the morning, I just add the liquid, put it on the blender, ready to go. It just tastes a lot fresher. And because I use frozen fruit, the fruit kind of thaws out. And I don't like having a super freezing cold smoothie. It kind of hurts my teeth. So that's one reason why I prep it the night before. And the other is just time. In the morning, I don't have to pull a bunch of stuff out and put it in the blender. But another trick I want to share with you is if you are someone who's struggling to like integrate like healthy things into your diet, a smoothie is a really easy way to do that. I've talked about this before in my sessions, like hiding nutritious things. If there's something like spinach or something you know you should be eating more of, put it into a smoothie. Chances are you probably won't even taste it, and then you're taking in all that good stuff. So this is going to be a multi-fruit and spinach and a couple other things smoothie. And the only other thing I want to share that's important and helpful is I buy a lot of frozen fruit. I know I've talked about this, Shelley's talked about it. I'm not going to bore you guys with those details, but frozen fruit, because it's inexpensive, it's easy, it's prepped and ready to go. The strawberries have the tops cut off, whatever. But what I do that saves a lot of hassle, especially for someone like me with bad hands, is I put the frozen fruit into like old yogurt containers. So I just dump a bunch in. So I've got one with blueberries. These are frozen blueberries, very cost effective. I've got one with strawberries. And then I've got the third one with mangoes. And this is another Costco purchase, organic fruit, so cheap if you buy it at Costco. Even if you don't, it's still a pretty good value. So if you're someone who's on a really tight budget and you want to integrate fruit in your diet, get frozen fruit. It's such an easy thing to use. So I'm going to add a little bit of each of these fruits to the blender. I'm also going to add a handful of spinach, as well as a couple of bananas. And then a couple other things that maybe Shelley wants to touch on. Flaxseed, ground flaxseed, a little pinch of turmeric. You've probably all heard about this by now if you've seen any of my sessions or just been in society, because turmeric is everywhere. And this is one of those things that's super good for you that you can hide into a smoothie. And the last thing is Spirulina, this is another like super healthy item that Shelley can tell you more of the details about, but I'm just gonna put all this into the blender. And the thing I like to do, this is just food nerddom here, is, and some spinach, if I didn't mention, I'm gonna add my spinach first. A lot of places when they make these smoothies, they add their greens last. I don't know why. Add the spinach first. And the reason is all the other heavy stuff is gonna go on top, and it's gonna blend the spinach a lot better than if you put your kale or your spinach or something on top. Then you have to like turn on the blender and like, you know, it's becomes a hassle. So all I'm gonna do is put a little bit of each. This is just to my preference, half a cup maybe of each of these frozen fruits, 2 bananas, because this is gonna be for 3 or 4 different smoothies. These things I mentioned, and I'm passing it back to Shelley. So.
Okay. So turmeric is everywhere. It's been used in alternative medicine for all kinds of things, from reducing blood cholesterol and reducing osteoarthritis pain, relieving itching, anti-inflammatory benefits. The research out there is not very strong around all those things, so there's no curative effect for turmeric. But the one thing that it does have that we have seen is a blood thinning effect. So it can be helpful for those who are at risk for heart disease and strokes and blood clots and that kind of thing. If you're taking turmeric supplements, I would definitely talk to your doctor about that before doing that, because there can be interactions. And one other thing I want to talk about real quick is what he's doing right now, the bananas. So bananas have an interesting fact about them when it comes to bowel movements. So unripe bananas are the more green side of the banana can lead toward constipation because they have high levels of resistant starch, which can be really hard for the body to digest. So really kind of like unripened bananas are not a good idea to eat when you're having issues with constipation. But yellow colored super ripe bananas, even like some with a couple spots, those are much better because the amount of resistant starch reduces as it ripens and it's converted into sugar. They're pretty good amount of fiber. They have a decent amount of fiber, so they can help ease constipation. So it just depends on what kind of banana you eat. But generally, the majority of the people I work with are constipated or dealing with poor results, and so that you don't want a green banana or anything close to it. So if you like bananas, go for like more ripe, even a couple spots on them.
All right, so a question, do you lose any nutritional value from frozen fruit versus fresh?
Ooh, not at all. You gain it. See, that's one thing that many people don't know is frozen fruit, as long as it is by itself in the ingredients and it's not with sugar, is really good for you, because those things are picked at the ripe of their at the peak of ripeness, and they're what's called flash frozen, frozen instantly right there then. Versus the berries that travel all the way to the supermarket, they sit in trucks and stuff, and they lose their vitamins and minerals slowly over time. So frozen is actually usually better, and you can find it on sale and stock your freezer with it, and that is cost saving right there.
Cool. Add a couple quick things in, and then I think we can take a couple more questions or wrap up whatever is best. But you saw I literally just put everything into the blender. This is how I prep the smoothie. I don't add the liquid the night before. I just stick this whole thing into the fridge, and then in the morning of, that's when you can add yogurt. I just do usually some oat milk, some plant milk, whatever it is. But if I feel like there's a lot of sweetness, and this smoothie has like mango and strawberry, bananas, there's a lot of sweetness. So I might add like half oat milk and half water, just to like balance out, because I don't want it to be too sweet. But that's pretty much what I do. I stick this whole thing in the fridge. I take it out in the morning, add the liquid, blend it, ready to go. And then any of these other things we were talking about earlier, hemp seeds, nut butters, obviously, goji berries, chia seeds as well. There's a lot of chia seeds in smoothies these days, but again, remember what I said about how much they absorb liquid. So if you add chia seeds, add more liquid. Anything you want, add it into your smoothie, drink it in a cup, you know, eat it with, you know, whatever it is you want as a breakfast, as a lunch, as a snack. It's such a good way to just integrate nutrition. It's like, I call it like free nutrition. Like you didn't have to think about, I'm not going to taste that spirulina. I'm not going to taste the turmeric. And if there's something that I'm not a fan of or whatever, if you don't like spinach, for example, then like, you're probably not going to taste this spinach. And that was a good handful of spinach in here. So you get all the benefits without, you know, as much of the hassle, I guess you'll say. So I'm going to stick this in the fridge as is. But again, these are, as always, just guidelines, just ideas. Feel free to make it however you like. So I'm pretty much done in here. I'm going to obviously stay on for more questions, or if Shelley, there's more to add about what we've talked about.
Yeah, I got one more thing to add about smoothies. So you can make it super thick and make it into a smoothie bowl. So just do the base however you like, make it super thick, put it in a bowl, and then top it with all those things too. And it looks really pretty. I think that was it. And oh yeah, if you're trying to hide spinach or kale or any of those greens or anything, all you got to do is throw some ripe banana in there and some berries to make it purple, and you'll never even know. Hence the kids, if your kids don't eat spinach.
All right, we have a couple of questions. Arash, what is spirulina?
Okay. Sorry, I'm here. I was just putting that away. Spirulina. Shelley, do you know? I don't even
We
really
haven't
know.
talked about it. It's blue-green algae.
Okay.
It's a form of algae that has protein, vitamins, minerals, all kinds of things.
It's one of the things that I read about, like when you can't, correct me if I'm wrong, Shelley, but like something like, is it omega-3s or something where like the things that you often can't get from plant products, you get in a thing like spirulina, yes, oftentimes, like omega-3s, and I feel like there's maybe iron or something. I can't remember.
There's all kinds of minerals in there, including iron. The one thing is you have to make sure that you get it from a really trusted brand, because it can be contaminated with toxic substances. So you got to be careful about, and heavy metals as well, because of where it's grown, if it's in the water there. So just be careful about where you get it.
Okay. And this next question asks about portion sizes. I suppose just depends on how hungry you are. They're asking how many egg things is a portion, I guess.
So really straightforward. There was one egg for each of those things. Mm-hmm. There was a very small amount of vegetables in each one. I'm going to guess like not even 30 calories worth of vegetables. There was a little bit of cheese, which adds some calorie and substance, but yeah, each of those is one egg. Shelley, what do you think? I mean, one,
yeah,
two?
I would say that would be an excellent protein right there. And then have yourself a slice of whole grain toast and a piece of fruit, and you're done.
All right. And then what about the smoothie? What kind of portion do you try to stay with?
I would just say a glass, like just a glass of it, see how you feel. Yeah. I mean, it just depends on how many calories you need, but drink a glass of it and see how you feel, see how it holds you over. Something like that should hold you over for a while. If you find like it's not holding you over, then add some whole grains, add a little bit of oatmeal, have a slice of whole grain toast or something like that with a tiny bit of peanut butter, and you should be good until lunch at least.
And the other way to do that is to just make the smoothie itself a little more, dense, if you will. So I don't like a lot of like heavy stuff in the smoothie. I like it to be more like fruits and veggies and a little more liquidy, and drink it like a glass and get all those nutrients. But, and Shelley will always say, be careful with nut butters because of the calories. But, if you want to add a spoonful of peanut butter or almond butter, if you want to add chia seeds, again, a really, really easy way to add chia seeds and get all that fiber. I just looked on the package. It's something like 2 tablespoons of chia seeds has like 36% of your daily fiber. It's pretty insane. So for those of us SCI people with bowel challenges, add something else to it to make it a little more dense, but it's really just up to you. how much you
See
want.
how you feel. Everyone's individual, so make a smoothie the way you think it should be, and have a glass. See how you feel. If you're hungry 15 minutes later, then clearly you need something else. Yeah.
And
Okay.
keep it. I make that and give some to my daughter, or like we might have a glass, and if there's some left over, just keep it and eat it the next day.
Mhm.
Very well. Those are all the questions that we've had. So once again, thank you, Arash and Shelley, for another yummy episode.
That was my favorite, I think.
You always
All
say
right.
that.
Right. All right, everyone. Thanks again for tuning in. As I mentioned, there'll be a recording of tonight's session in your inboxes tomorrow morning. And Arash, I don't know if you'll have a chance to send me the recipe
Yeah,
tonight or not.
I
But if you
promise
do-
I will send it.
Right.
And remember, it's just the basics. Add and customize to your liking. Just the basics. And I will promise to send that to Franklin, and then he can distribute that.
Fantastic. All right,
And if
everyone.
anyone has any other questions, just send them to me, okay?
Yeah, you can always send them to me, info@nordcalsci.org, and I'm happy to pass them along to either Shelley or Arash. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in again. And we need to figure out what our next month's topic is going to be, but I don't think we'll be disappointed. So have a good evening, everyone. And most importantly, have a great long holiday weekend as well. Thanks, Arash. Thanks, Shelley.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye. Have a
Okay.
good night, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.